The Mike Wise Show is a presentation of Pure Hoops Media.
I'm so happy to welcome to the program David J. Stern, a person I've known for, 25 years. I probably came late to him in his tenure, but he's not only the former NBA commissioner, but a person who I think is responsible for putting together the most progressive, inclusive league that is almost known to man. I can't, and I know it's a low bar because sometimes you have to compare yourself to the NFL.
No,
and some of the other.
I'm not comparing myself to anybody, no matter how. You're not going to get me today.
All right, this is good. David Stern at his heart is an old New York lawyer who refuses to lose an argument, and we're going to see how we fare today. But basically, I want to thank you for what you did for basketball. The great Bill Walton wrote up there, the most important person in the history of basketball.
I gave him that to write on that. So
you told him that?
No, I didn't.
No.
He's very effusive.
Tell everybody what you're doing now. I know most people know.
Okay, I'm a senior advisor to a venture capital firm, Graycroft Partners, to a investment bank, PJT Partners, and to the NBA, and together working with John Kozner, who is a former NBA director of broadcasting 25 years ago. Most recently is the exec VP of digital for ESPN.
Yep.
After 20 years there, we have a portfolio of 15 sports technology companies. So I'm busier than I've ever been. Startups.
Now, this is coincidental, but do you know this is a startup sports technology digital company?
Yes, I didn't or haven't thought of it that way.
But it's much more than that. It's got video. It's got talent. I'm not saying that you should invest in us. I'm saying that if you don't, you're missing the boat.
Right. You know, there are so many investments that we're not making, and we're missing so many boats that we're going to be stranded on the dock. I have visited with Bruce Bernstein.
You have? Oh,
yes.
So he's one of the first-class people in the organization.
He's a great, I used to kill him when he was producing the draft. I guess it was for ESPN.
Yeah, he was doing it for ESPN.
Yeah, I used to say, okay, if you guys don't, I'm going out to do the pick now, whether you guys are ready or not. And so he would have to, all right, speed it up. David's walking out.
He's
very fine gentleman.
A great guy in 20 different ways. Probably one of the reasons why we're talking today, because you didn't like a lot of the things I wrote. No, actually, that's not true.
No, I thought you were writing to the limits of your capability, actually.
I always thought, to get the humorous stuff out of the way, I always thought that Saturday Night Live missed an opportunity. John Lovett's doing you. Yeah,
I would consider that a real compliment. I think he's very funny, and I love him.
But you had the same delivery.
I don't think I had the same delivery, but that's okay. He's a great comic being.
How often do you talk to Adam Silver?
I would say we stay in regular touch.
Like we're talking once a week, twice a week?
I don't even want to quantify it.
Okay.
Sometimes twice a week and sometimes not for weeks.
Yeah.
It depends. It's his league, and he's running it, I think, in a spectacular way.
Have you made a conscious effort to stay out of his way publicly, and when people?
Yeah. Yes, I not to stay out of his way publicly, but I walked out of the NBA on Feb 1, 2014, made a right-hand turn on Fifth Avenue, and came to these offices.
Have you been back since?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I wasn't back the first year, but since then, what being a consultant means, that if somebody dies who no one heard of, they bring me back to do a video tribute. That's my most important consulting role. But we talk, and there's a lot of history. And we worked together for 20 years, but before that, I was at the NBA for, I guess, 15 years. So a lot of things that I used to say. I not only know where some of the bodies are buried, and I buried some of them, but that got me in trouble once in collective bargaining, so I don't say that anymore.
You actually, I remember that.
Yeah.
And you got in trouble for it?
Well, someone somehow thought that I was threatening them.
Oh, that you were going to actually take out some people because you have that kind of power.
Yeah, which I didn't, never had, but that was kind of funny to me, but that's all.
There's been some writers that have shown up in interesting places. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like along with Jimmy Hoffa.
Right, exactly.
You better be careful today.
I don't even have to say who my guest is. Everybody knows David Stern. Eric Newman, the gentleman who's filming right now, brought up a great point. We were doing a rehearsal before this came on, and he said, when was the last time David Stern was asked who his mentors were? And I got to think that Larry O'Brien was one of them. But if you had to go back and think about who really made you,
I would say the three people stick out in sort of reverse order of the timing. Larry O'Brien showed me the true meaning of the word politics. He would say, okay, what do I have to get done? Just tell me. I don't have to spend a fortune of time doing it. And then he began moving it. By way of example, in 1976, the owners voted, after they settled the Robertson case, that they would not merge with the ABA. We will not merge. So Larry said, what should we be doing? He said, we should be merging, Larry. So he said, okay, let's work on it. And by September of that year, which was, I think, in February, we probably settled it in principle.
You're a junior NBA lawyer at this point.
Yeah, I wasn't so junior at this point. I was actually up there.
Okay.
I was 10 years in practicing law, so I was leading the way in settling the Robertson case. But Larry got it done. Before that...
and right there, you learned flexibility.
Flexibility, but also think it out. How do you see, politics is the art of getting something done. I don't know what the dictionary meaning is, but politics is the art of accomplishing something that you want to get done. And Larry was a master at that from his days with running JFK's campaigns, things like that. And so he was very, very good at that. And he taught Russ Granick and me a lot about that. Before that, there was a gentleman by the name of George Gallants at the Proskauer firm where I practiced law. And George was a stickler for detail, but always had time for a good joke. And so he kept me on a very tight leash when it came to writing and correcting and being focused on what was important. So it's the old story. I think Pascal said it. If I had more time, this letter would be shorter. And that's what George taught about the relentless pursuit of perfection, as we used to call it. And other than that, before that, it was my dad who ran Stern's Delicatessen. And
tell people where that was.
That was at 8th Avenue and 23rd Street. And
what did it become?
I passed by it recently. I don't remember. It's become something else. Although it might still be a deli. I'm not sure. The block moved, but it was an old-fashioned block. It had a barber, a shoe store, a haberdashery, a luncheonette, a florist. It was growing up in a very simple time.
What did he teach you? Well, if you had to pick one thing that he really that you remember about him.
Well, is that repetition of tasks is an important thing. We did the same thing every day. It was 4 o'clock. You had to mop the floor. You had to pack out the showcases. You had to days of the week. You had to cook something that had to be cooked. It wasn't a sit-in deli. It was just an old-fashioned deli that you came in and it was a time. I think I remember that a 6-pack of beer was, the specialties were like 99 cents for a 6-pack of beer.
For a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah, and a container of milk was 19 cents. So
What are you, 150?
I'm dating myself. Yeah, I am old, but it's fun to recollect. And
That's great.
The other thing I remember is that I could never exactly please him. That's what fathers are for. So when we went from writing down the prices of things on a paper bag and then adding up the column, I remember when national cash registers came in and began, electrifying, so to speak, and everyone had their own letter. So each clerk was identified, and my letter was L for lazy. So I remember that, too. So
He used to call you lazy?
He never called me lazy, but that's what they said or you're L for lazy. That's all. No, I worked hard.
That must have hurt.
No, it didn't. I worked hard. I remember I used to drive in from school at Rutgers and sometimes worked a night shift. They were open from 9 in the morning till 1 in the morning. So we did a lot of stuff. Saturday night later.
Does your dad even like basketball? Do you remember growing up?
Yeah, he enjoyed it. We used to go to games at the Garden, the old Garden. It was fun.
Yeah. And you get this job, and
Unfortunately, he never got the opportunity. He passed before I became commissioner.
How old was he? How old were you when he died?
I have to work backwards. I think he died in 19. Oh boy, he was 62, and he was born in 19. And he was born in 1918. And
A heart attack?
Oh, he stroke, heart attack. He was, he pushed around for 12 years after he became ill. So he taught me something there too. He really wanted to see his grandchildren, so he kept pushing, and he was a great fighter.
Oh, your mom must have told him that he'd be proud of you.
Yeah, and my mom, the only time she ever initiated a call, because she used to not want to bother me at the office, was it came across CNN that I had just gotten a big bonus and signed a new contract. So she called, and the conversation goes on and on and on. And said, "Mom, what's up?" "Well, it says here that XYZ. I said, "Well, don't worry, Mom. It's never as large as they say it is, but I'm comfortable."
She wanted a piece of your money.
No, she was comfortable too.
That's great.
Stern's delicatessen, as I said, it was the seat of the family empire.
This what?
The seat of the empire.
The seat of the empire.
Yeah.
You're rising up the ranks. You're seeing things going on. I always thought that it's cliche now, but the NBA was too black and too drug-addled. And I look back at those times, and I don't know if that was as much reality as that's what society thought of it. And it was almost more of a problem of society not accepting the black athlete as much as they do now.
Well, but that's something I'm very proud that our society was as we projected it would be. We got a small group of us together, and we said, "Look, guys, we've got the best athletes in the world playing the most exciting game, and we're going to keep saying it until it comes true." And we said it and said it and said it. I was the 24th employee of the NBA, believe it or not. And so I had the opportunity to hire some of the best people in sports in the various functions that they performed, and it was great. And yes, people said that because our players averaged $250,000, they were making so much money. That's why they took drugs, because and then they had
$250,000
afros. Were the day, and then came the tattoos, etc. But it was kind of interesting. People would say, "Well, what do you think about these gold chains and all these things like that, Stern?" I said, "You mean the elderly Jewish men in Miami, or what are you talking about?" So you have. If you didn't have a sense of humor, you couldn't get through it, because we were pounded. We were really pounded.
There was a push and pull, I think, about. And it's still going on in some ways, but I think most of it has been eliminated over time, is how authentic is someone allowed to be? And I remember this, and I'll use two real quick examples. One was, there was a time when, either Michigan or somebody else ushered in the era of shorts that looked like tents, and they were down to your knees, and you put in a rule that people were measuring shorts in the locker room, and everybody at the time was like, David Stern's turning into a dictator, and he's not letting especially African American players be who they are. And then let me give you the contradiction here, and the thing that would turn it around. Your own Hoop magazine, the in-house magazine, has a cover story of Allen Iverson, and Allen Iverson is tatted up, and someone airbrushed his tattoos, and you were furious. You thought that Allen Iverson should be portrayed as he is.
Right.
And so could you talk about that push and pull as a commissioner, and how you don't want to alienate your customer base, but you also want to let these people be who they are, irrespective of white, black, whatever?
No one ever asked me about that, and I was crazed on the subject of Allen Iverson's tattoos being it was inauthentic. There's tattoos being so-called whited out, so to speak. That was terrible.
Did you fire the guy, or did you just tell him to reprimand him?
No. We say you got to keep at it until you get it right. That was the penalty, was to suffer me for a longer period of time. But actually, I don't find those to be at opposite ends of the spectrum, actually. You need certain rules. It's the obligation of the commissioner to have rules. We don't let players play in long pants. They have to wear what's prescribed. And so and when we began sort of shortening the shorts, so to speak, they ordered bigger sizes. It was a game that was being played, and it just looked silly to me as it happened. I don't think you had to be in John Stockton short shorts. That's a name that half of your listeners won't remember, which is tragic. He was.
Do you think people remember Stockton?
Stockton and Malone. I mean, I don't know, how long ago did he retire?
Wow, it might have been the very end of the maybe it was early 2000s.
All right, so it could be 19 years ago.
Right,
and
maybe
you could
15.
Be right. Okay, so if you were 10 years old, now you're 25. Julius who?
Yeah.
It's
Oscar who?
But that's what happens. That's why I love to see RWB, Russell Westbrook, being lauded for his triple doubles, because it enables people to be informed that Oscar did it for a whole year.
Which is still crazy.
Which is crazy. Yeah. And that's how good he was. And, even as it relates to Wilt or Bill Russell, everyone says to me, well, what do you think, LeBron or Michael? And I say, Bill Russell. He has 11 rings. You tell me. I'm taking
LeBron in a game of one-on-one.
Okay. I take Russell.
Well, Russell now, yeah. I mean, Russell now, I don't think he could beat Russell at the time.
That's what I mean.
We can't compare those days.
I'm not asking an 85-year-old man to play a 35-year-old
I think he could block a couple shots at 85.
He probably could, but that's a different issue. That's a different issue. Whether he takes the faker or not is the question.
I don't think he does. He's still pretty sharp.
I think that's right. I'm talking about Russell at his prime, in fairness. He was a great player.
It's the evolution of the game is crazy. I think it's ridiculous things like if you took the old Chuck Taylors and threw them out and gave those players the shoes they have today. I mean, it's like Tiger with the golf equipment that he has today.
Well, or Rafa with his Babolat racket, which is cheating, really. I don't mean it in a serious way, but I use it now.
If he was using the old Stan
well, it was the
Smith.
Kramer Wilson or it was the Dunlop. I just switched out my Wilson that Roger uses for the Babolat that Rafa uses, and it has increased the depth of my shot without me changing a thing. So it's really interesting to see. And one of the tennis pro at my club says that that's cheating using a Babolat. I said, okay, let me in on it. I'm ready.
You still play tennis regularly?
I'm back at it. I had 4 years off because I had a knee replacement, a partial knee replacement, and a hip replacement. So I'm now bionic, and I'm back on the court.
Did you do all this after you were commissioner, the surgeries?
Yes.
I feel like you put them off for a long time.
Well, yes. In fact, what happens, and your listeners should understand this, if you have a very bad knee, which I had for a long time, it didn't stop me from skiing, from hiking, from biking, walking, etc., but it did cause the opposite hip to go because I was favoring my right leg because it knocked off my left hip. And so then I had to have the hip replacement first. And then I had a partial knee on the left knee, and then I had a full replacement on the right knee. So, go no.
You go under, did any of that, and some of your contemporaries have passed. Your father passed at 62. Has any of that put you in touch with your own mortality a little bit?
I'm great at denial. I don't even think about it.
Really?
No.
So you don't think about, like, any...
Well,
your last years, or what you want to do before you leave the earth?
No, I want to be I want to be busily engaged, and that's it. That's what I want to be doing.
The marketing of the NBA to me is somewhat natural, and it's somewhat seamless because of the players that came, players that made people better. Everybody talks about Larry and Magic and what they were individually, but to me, they embodied giving yourself to the good of the group more than anybody that I'd seen play the game. They, as good as they were, they found their teammates. They, at no point were you going up and down the court thinking that you may not get the ball because you're in the presence of a great player. Like, no, these guys, if they thought that was the better play, they would do it. That was the natural part of the marketing. Go ahead. I was going to get to you and what you did for it.
No, that's exactly right. I think that it's a cliche, but it's true, and many cliches are, that the greatest players make the ones around them better. And as a team, they achieve great results. So, watching Magic on the wing smiling as he goes behind his back to give it to someone who's going in for a quick layup, or Larry taking a step back to see whether he should shoot it or someone else should. It was great fun. And if you ask me what the thing is that I'm most proud of, is that the players of the NBA, when I first got involved, were like in the basement of the celebrity pyramid.
Oh.
And now they're at the tippy top.
If they would have showed up at games, their own games, people wouldn't have known some of them.
Yeah, and so now they're very well known, and they speak out, and they do all kinds of interesting things, and they are, as a group, very charitably inclined.
Well,
so we really, I really enjoy watching them, and I actually enjoy watching Adam, my successor, which I think is a complete blessing for a retired so-called CEO.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching someone who worked with me for 20 years in 5 different jobs, all reporting to me. And people think
you liked that, didn't you? You liked the power.
No, I didn't like the power. I guess I enjoyed the outcome because all of my colleagues were so talented. And actually, people think that it was Dr. King who said "free at last." It was actually Adam, because he was free at last, and I'm having a ball watching.
Free at last when you left.
When I turned over the keys after 30 years. Actually, in some ways, both of us were free.
You were free from the madness, and he was free to become who Adam Silver was always supposed to be.
And he's doing a great job.
Before I get to the marketing thing, you put me on something that I need to get to. Now comes the meat of the interview, now that I've softened you up with all the family stuff. This is the hard stuff.
No, some of it I'm not going to answer, so go ahead.
I understand that. But you will be gotten before this is over. You know that, don't you?
No.
Okay. I'm just trying. Can you guys hear him okay, by the way? Because he's...
I'm
okay.
fine.
All right.
I have 2 mics. I'm doing great.
Okay, so...
I don't know how to say this, Mike.
Go ahead.
You don't have the intellectual acuity to catch me.
Yeah, this is.
I'm going to be very nice to you.
Sadly, the commissioner's right.
Okay.
Sadly, the commissioner's right.
There's no friend like an old friend. Go ahead, ask the question.
So I wanted to get
Speechless,
to
huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it was like a standing 8 count. The time when you first hired Adam, what was he doing?
He was an attorney at a leading New York law firm, looking at his career options, and
Okay.
he came to talk to me because he was a litigator, and he was about at Cravath, Swaine and Moore, one of the leading firms in New York. He was about to consider going to the U.S. Attorney's Office. That was a career path that is not unusual.
Yeah.
Go to the U.S. Attorney's Office for a couple of years as an assistant U.S. attorney, then return and become a career litigator. And I said, if you're prepared to work that cheaply, you should come to work with me, and you'll be my special assistant. So Adam started as my special assistant. Then he became the chief of staff. Then he became senior vice president of something.
And then you put him into, and then he was the president of NBA Entertainment.
President of NBA Entertainment, then deputy commissioner.
Yeah.
And the only thing wrong with all of those 5 is that they reported to me. So he
really well. You learned at your.
It was fun.
You learned at your knee, and
it is so rewarding to have a in-house successor who is known to everybody and knows everybody. So it was a seamless transition, and we had a great time doing it.
Was there? Russ Granick was obviously deputy commissioner for a long time. He was not only a personal friend, but somebody that was as loyal to you as anybody. How hard was it, or was it just something that you saw coming? How hard was it to not pluck Russ for the job after what he'd done after Adam? Like, was that a personal angst, or did you just know?
Russ had stepped down before.
But he wanted that job.
I assume that. I thought he was. We used to joke about it. He would feed me all kinds of things that would increase my cholesterol, but it wasn't successful.
He was trying to knock you off.
At some point, he decided that he had a good run. He enjoyed his life, and he was going to play more golf.
So there wasn't a moment when you had a conversation with him and said, I really think the way the league is going and with how I see the future transpiring, that Adam would be the better choice? Or no, there was
not.
never that?
Never that.
Okay.
No. It was, Russ stepped down a number of years before because Adam became deputy commissioner, which Russ was. And if I had stepped down years earlier, I would have heartily recommended Russ for the job.
So you basically took Russ's tenure by yourself?
No,
okay.
Not really, because actually, everyone else stepped up. Joel Litvin was there, Rick Buchanan, Bill Koenig.
Right.
Not to mention
Jeff
others.
Mishkin.
Jeff Mishkin. As we've come on, I was blessed with a string of very talented people who could do the job completely. Gary Bettman was doing the job, and he's now had a wonderful career leading the NHL. He was a general counsel for 12 years.
You may be the only commissioner that hasn't been booed, by the way.
No, I've been booed.
Have you?
Have you ever been to a good draft?
Oh, that's true.
In Brooklyn?
Yeah,
My
that's
God,
true.
It's
yeah,
great.
That's true.
I think it's great. I usually hold my hand up to my ears so they can get louder.
So when you marketed the NBA, and Eric was sending me these commercials. I looked a couple of them on YouTube, and I know you approved all of them. You got people involved that... I'm trying to think of the guy who did all the early NBA entertainment stuff. But
Paul Gilbert.
NBA is fantastic.
Right, we're still in touch, Paul and I.
That was a To me, beyond Bird Magic, that was a moment when those commercials started coming out. The NBA is fantastic.
Well,
and that to me was you talk about a seed of an empire.
Yeah.
That to me led to NBA entertainment. That to me led to going overseas and selling a brand that nobody thought anybody would buy because it's a soccer-infused world.
Well, I think that actually to this day, the principle behind all of our marketing, I think, is that the game is great. Use it.
Yeah.
And NBA action, it's fantastic. You know, we used to have the 1812 overture underneath laid out, and the making these bombs. You know, I was going to say 3-point shots, but that was probably before there was a 3-point shot at some point. And the action spoke for itself, whether it was the action on the court, the excellence of the players, or the fan reactions. We would always do that. And then I prematurely moved on to I love this game. Even though it was an effective campaign, cabbies would still stop, see me in the street, and say, it's fantastic.
Cabbies would stop in New York and see you in the street and say, it's fantastic.
That's exactly right.
That's a legacy right there. You talk about like giving your players Q ratings.
No, they still stop and they say, "What are you going to do about the Knicks?" And I say, "Hey, talk to Adam. It's not my job." This year, I said it's going to be great. At one point, someone stops me and I said, "Oh, don't worry. Next year, the Knicks are going to get Zion in the draft. They're going to sign KD and they're going to sign Kyrie." They said, "Really?" I said, "How the heck would I know?"
Yeah. Yeah, I long. We'll go at the very end here. I want to get into the ridiculous conspiracy theories over the years and get your quick lightning round answers on them. But I knew that David Stern was not out to punish the rest of small market NBA world when the Knicks actually left the bench and they were all suspended. If there was ever a time when you wanted the Knicks to get in the finals, that would have been it. And you went by the letter of the law.
That's what you have to do.
And
otherwise, the rule is meaningless.
Yeah. And so when I thought that moment, I go, if there was a chance to get the Knicks in the finals, I thought they could have beat the Bulls that year. But what do I know? I was covering.
What I was forced to say was it was an IQ test.
It was an IQ test.
If you leave the bench, you get suspended. Now, what part of that don't you understand?
Right. If you only go to mid-court, Patrick Ewing, you're still suspended.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
No, that was it's a heart-rendering. Jeff Van Gundy still kicks himself for not holding those guys back.
When you've seen the photo, all you could do is grab their leg. Doesn't stop anything.
Right, you're right. What year did you actually go into business, I guess, with China?
Well, we went into business in China, not with China, in around 90. You know, it gets pegged at different years, but I think it was 90 when years before Abe Poland had taken the bullets to China, or maybe even Larry Fleischer, the head of the union, had taken a pickup team to play in China. But in 1990 or thereabouts, we gave CCTV, China Central Television, tapes of our games to play on Chinese television. So put it at or about 1990, and we told them we'd split the advertising revenue with them, and I sent them checks even though we couldn't sell anything. Just
because you knew that the exposure was enough.
That's the way. If you can get people following your game and your stars on television, you can do it.
Oh, my favorite story is the guy from Argentina. You know him, Adrian. He walks into your office and he says, I wanted to put tapes of the NBA on in Argentina, and I know that people won't watch them because we love Maradona and soccer, and you sold them the rights to these tapes for $1,000.
Did we get that much?
Yeah, you got $1,000. And this guy starts showing these tapes, and then I'm at the finals, and he's telling me the story, and Manu Ginobili looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, and because Adrian put those videos on, I didn't want to be the next Maradona. I wanted to be the next Michael Jordan." And he had a poster of Michael Jordan above his bed as a boy, and That's, that to me is the NBA right there.
The Mike Wise Show is a presentation of Pure Hoops Media.